Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. It is 1:40 for me Central Time on Monday, July 1st. It is just after 2:40 Eastern Time where the court is in Massachusetts. The jury had a question and has been brought back into the courtroom. We are going to go live into court. We are just a few minutes behind real time in court because I wanted to make sure that we had time to get notifications out and get the stream up. We are just about done here. So thank you for no spoilers in the chat. Thank you for watching this in real time with me. We are going to wrap this up together. I am not going to roll the intro. I am just going to pull court up and we are just going to go to court. I am going to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being a Lawnard. We're going to have plenty. Emily, get your stream together. No, we're traveling. We've got to catch a flight. Like, it's all the things today. So we are going to go directly into court, Lawnards. It has been a busy one. I know some of the app notifications went out, but I have had really difficult service. Y'all in Milwaukee, the cell service has been killing me. So let us go ahead and go into court now. No spoilers, please. But the jury has a question, and I think this is going to be their final one. So all right. We are going to see what is going on in live court.
You are unmuted.
Thank you. Be seated. Closing session.
22-117 Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
All right. The jury is at an impasse.
All right. That's going to be
So
the
we'll
end.
bring them in.
That's going to be the end. The jury is at an impasse. I'm going to bring them in. That's going to be the end. She's going to declare a mistrial, and that is going to be it. So as the jury comes in, we'll see what the poll is, but the court, after, 31 days of evidence, 75 witnesses, and they are done. No spoilers in the chat, please. We want to make sure that everyone that got our notification can tune in with us. We're going to see what she does. She's going to declare a mistrial. This is the end of the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed for now. So rise above. No, you're not. I see you in the chat. But there's a lot of people in the chat, and sometimes things skip pretty quickly. So, no, I can see you. So, Lawnards, it's good to see you. The judge is going to declare a mistrial, which means this case is still
Mr.
open.
Foreman, I am in receipt of your note. Judge Cannoni, despite our rigorous efforts, we continue to find ourselves at an impasse. Our perspectives on the evidence are starkly divided. Some members of the jury firmly believe that the evidence surpasses the burden of proof, establishing the elements of the charges beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's interesting.
Conversely, others find the evidence fails to meet this standard and does not sufficiently establish the necessary elements of the charges.
Right.
The deep division is not due to a lack of effort or diligence, but rather a sincere adherence to our individual principles and moral convictions.
Right.
To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs.
Right. We're done. So that is what the jury note said. I'm going to play that back one more time for everybody just coming in, because that jury note is incredibly thoughtful. Some of us, it says, believe that the evidence has found this beyond a reasonable doubt. Some do not, which means, again, when we're looking at a split, you never know what the jury split is. When people were asking earlier today, why would the defense want a hung? Because if you have more people going for guilt, what you do not want is the jury to compromise on one of those lesser included. Some of those lesser included crimes have very significant impacts and prison sentences. So the defense much rather have the jury come back with a hung that they can work for forward than to have them come back with a compromised verdict of guilty on a lesser included. So we're going to go back and hear this jury note one more time. It's incredibly thoughtful and detailed. I can imagine when the judge read that note, she's like, and we are absolutely done. There is nothing more that can be done for this jury. And there is nothing more they can do in deliberation. I'm going to try to pull this light a little bit closer. Let's listen to this jury note again. If it'll play, like playing would be great.
Tony, despite our rigorous efforts, we continue to find ourselves at an impasse. Our perspectives on the evidence are starkly divided. Some members of the jury firmly believe that the evidence surpasses the burden of proof, establishing the elements of the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Conversely, others find the evidence fails to meet this standard and does not sufficiently establish the necessary elements of the charges. The deep division is not due to a lack of effort or diligence, but rather a sincere adherence to our individual
division.
principles and moral convictions. To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs.
Would force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs. They are using the wording of the instructions the judge has been sending back. They went back to lunch. They have been trying to come to some resolution. But this, excuse me, give me 1 second. This jury in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed is hopelessly deadlocked, and the judge is going to declare a mistrial.
I'm not going to do that to you folks. Your service is complete.
Your service is
I'm
complete.
declaring a mistrial in this case. I'll be in to see you privately in a few minutes. So thank you so much for your service.
Oh, she's going to pull them in the jury room.
To the court, please.
She's going to pull them in the jury room. We're not going to see a split. Maybe we'll get that information later from a press release from the defense or from the Commonwealth, probably from the defense. She is going to go see the jury in the jury room. She's probably going to set a date. I don't know. She's probably going to set a date for a next hearing. This means that this case can go forward. They have not found any charges. Nothing has been resolved. That means this case starts back over at the beginning.
All right. I'd like to pick a status date to find out what our next move is.
Somebody make a note. I don't have
So I'd
paper.
like to come back sometime maybe the end of July. I
Yanetti's
understand
looking at
people
his
have
phone.
vacation schedules.
Yeah, they've just been in trial for
Can we
like
come
months.
in the week of the 21st?
So end of July is later this month.
That's fine.
And the camera is switching to John O'Keefe's mother. I don't know if there will ever be a resolution of what happened in this case, honestly, y'all. Honestly.
The 22nd at 2 p.m. Your Honor. And I would appear for my client.
All right, is there another day that week? Could you do the 25th or 26th?
Unfortunately, I think I'm supposed to be for vacation on the 25th.
Okay, the 22nd and the 24th are not great dates. So
What about okay. What about the 19th and 9th? Is that whole week?
no, that week's not good. Teaching that I cannot get out of.
I don't know why all of a sudden we have this banner, but there's nothing I can do to get rid of it.
7th, 8th, 9th? Any of those days?
No, we'll do the 22nd. We'll go back to the 22nd at 2. I can't let it go that long.
Your Honor, so the court knows Ms. Little and I are not available on the 22nd. We had a hearing in Los Angeles on the 22nd.
Okay.
We're proposing to appear remotely anyway.
Okay.
But for a status conference, I don't want the court to think it's disrespectful to the court, but Ms. Little and I probably will not.
Okay. So you and your client will be here in person, Ms. Giannetti.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
All right.
That's the end.
Thank you. We'll see you then.
All rise.
And that's the end. That is the end.
And now we have an official ruling.
That is the end of the Karen Reed trial. The jury has come back as hopelessly deadlocked. The judge has excused them, and this is a undecided or a hung jury. For those of you just coming in to watch, I'm going to go back and watch the note again. The date that they picked is the date for the status conference to see when they're going to proceed to trial again. If they're going to proceed to trial again, y'all are asking me to watch this exit. Oh, okay. I was just trying to get away from the banner, honestly. So we will go ahead and watch it. and see what happens.
All right. All right. Thank you. We'll see you then.
The jurors can choose to talk at this point. They may not.
And now we have an official ruling in the Karen Reed murder trial. It is a mistrial declared. And you
I
see
imagine
there Karen
that
Reed
feels like a
hugging her
win.
father,
Again,
her father
I'm not-
shaking Alan Jackson.
That again feels like a win for the defense because again, when you are found guilty, there is not much you can do except appeal. When you are found not guilty, it is done. But knowing that some of these jurors felt that there was proof beyond a reasonable doubt in this case means that a unresolved jury is a giant win for the defense. And y'all, I saw Paul look like he was saying something. I don't know. I'm going to leave it be. I'm sure everyone else will clip stuff down. I'm not going to speculate on it. I'm just going to let them exit the courtroom. I don't want to hear, I'm not going to be playing news commentary over what I'm talking about. So I might switch to another feed, but we will take a look. I might take another feed, but again, if the defense talks to anyone, I'm sure they will bring it up. And I'm going to go switch feeds and see if the defense speaks outside the courtroom, because that would not surprise me. But I am going to switch feeds to see that. Miguelina, will you keep an eye on a few of the other feeds to see if anyone speaks outside the courtroom? Because I imagine that they might. Let me pull up one other feed to look at, and then I'm going to answer your questions. I did want to go back real quick and look at the judge's question for all of you just coming in. Look at the judge's question again and see where we go. But there is a possibility that there would be the defense would speak outside of court. So let me take a look real quick. And then I'll give you some of my thoughts on it. But let me make sure there's already like cutting to live commentary. All right. We're definitely not going to do that, but we have the live commentary here. So let me just keep a look on a couple of the feeds to see if anything comes up, and I will go back to what the jury said on a cleaner feed, and then we'll see if there's any press conference afterwards. So let's see. Oh, all of the feeds have so much crap on them. We just need to, we just need to get Launard feeds. That's just where we're going next with all of this. So we don't have to deal with scrolling, distracting nonsense. All right. We're going to go back to court real quick and rewatch. It happened very quickly. And again, at the end of this case started, at the end of April. May. We started in May. We went through all of June and into July. The jury has reached an impasse and there is nothing that can be done. Juries hang. It happens. We don't know the split. The court was going to go back and talk to the jury in the jury room. So there's not much more we can do. And I know it feels incredibly unresolved. I have had juries hang. I can tell you how that feels from the attorney standpoint, and we will do that in a moment. Thank you, Miguelina. We will do that in a moment. We will talk about what that is like on the attorney side, from the prosecutor side, and from what I understand from the defense side. I've not worked as a defense attorney, but they would rather take a hung verdict than a compromised guilty on a lesser included. Remember, one of these lesser included crimes carried up to 20 years in prison. The defense would rather any day of the week this. Why? There is a ton of room for the defense to argue from here that this case should be dismissed. There's room for them to wait for the federal investigation. The defense has a lot more options here, I think, than the prosecution does. I think the prosecution's in a really tough spot with this hung verdict. And I think that for John O'Keefe's family, we are one step closer to them not having answers about what happened here. I don't think this trial, for my personal opinion, look, for me, I don't think this trial answered what happened to John O'Keefe. I just don't think it answered it. And I think that the victim's family, all victims' families, deserve to have those answers. So thanks, Miguelina. You are the greatest producer in the world as we are going live on the fly from the hotel to get Emily to an airport, because look, buy the concerts tickets, never miss a Sunday show. And sometimes you have to life. And if we're going to talk about anything on this channel, it is going to be balance. And sometimes that means we are streaming from a hotel room in Milwaukee. By the way, the area down by the water in Milwaukee looks absolutely cool as fuck. Like I will be back. Law nerds, we will be back to Milwaukee, but that's not what we're here for today. Now that all of you are here, let's go ahead and do this one more time, and then we're going to zoom to any press statements made at the end of court. So for those of you just coming in, we're going to watch again with the court together because it was so quick, and then we will zoom to any comments, and then we will do some questions, and then I will wrap up and get to the airport, and then we're all going to take a minute. We're all going to take a deep breath, and we're going to have a 4th of July holiday, and then Alec Murdaugh starts, not Alec Murdaugh, good Lord, Alec Baldwin, Alex with guns, Alec Baldwin starts July 10th. And then there's stuff going on in the YSL case as well. Like we have lots of law to catch up on. Today, I just need to catch a flight and not miss it. That's where we're at. All right. Let's go to court. We are rewatching the jury question. I would encourage you, even no matter how you are feeling, no matter how frustrated, it feels like a letdown. It's exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting waiting for a verdict. It is exhausting. But this is what this jury decided. So y'all, listen to the note. This jury tried. So no matter how frustrated you are, I would ask that you consider placing your frustration until we know more. Like we didn't know about all the courthouse Becky stuff till we did, right? Until we know more. The frustration here goes with the attorneys, right? It is the job of the attorneys to make the case clear. This case was not clear enough for this jury, which means that instead of coming to a compromised guilty, which I don't think would have felt like a fair result to many of you, instead of coming to a compromised guilty, they held their ground. If you believe Karen Reed's guilty, are you going to change your mind? And if you believe Karen Reed's not guilty, are you going to change your mind? So I have respect for the jury saying, we are not going to change our mind. If you feel someone's not guilty, how can you convict them with a clear conscience? And they stood their ground. So again, I'm going to swoop again. Let's hear what the jury has to say. We're going to go back to court. I'm going to stop talking. Well, for the moment, I'm not all the way done. That's for sure. All right. I think I've got this gained up enough.
22117 Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
All right, the jury is at an impasse. So we'll bring them in.
So the judge brings them in and reads the jury note when the foreperson is present in the courtroom. We're going to zoom to that moment. And we're going to hear this jury note again, because I think it's incredibly important to hear the jury note and to know that I think this jury worked. I think they are probably exhausted and emotionally drained. And I hope that they are not descended upon by the media. I hope they are not harassed. I hope that this jury is left to be. They made a statement, in my opinion. This jury made a statement by their notes. Their notes told everyone what they were thinking. And so I would be
surprised. All right, Mr. Foreman, I am in receipt of your note. Judge Cannoni, despite our rigorous efforts, we continue to find ourselves at an impasse. Our perspectives on the evidence are starkly divided. Some members of the jury firmly believe that the evidence surpasses the burden of proof, establishing the elements of the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Conversely, others find the evidence fails to meet this standard and does not sufficiently establish the necessary elements of the charges. The deep division is not due to a lack of effort or diligence, but rather a sincere adherence to our individual principles and moral convictions.
Right.
To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs. I'm not going to do that to you folks. Your service is complete.
All done.
I'm declaring a mistrial in this case. I'll be in to see you privately in a few minutes.
And I imagine
so thank
the judge
you
will
so
ask
much for your
for the
service.
split then outside of the public view. It was a well-written note. It is disappointing, but forcing the jury into a compromise verdict, I think, would be a miscarriage of justice. And oftentimes, if they are going to compromise on a lesser included, it is often a compromise towards a lesser included on guilt and everything else for not guilt. And I don't think that is the right result, because they're not deciding a DUI. In any of these lesser includeds, they were deciding a motor vehicle homicide or a involuntary manslaughter. Those are still very, very serious charges. Thank you, Jenna, and thank you for the work you did.
Thank you. Be seated. Close still in session.
All right, I'd like to pick a status date to find out what our next move is.
We're going to talk
So
about what
I'd
will
like
happen
to come
now in
back
just a second, Cameron.
sometime maybe
Carmen,
the
I
end of
apologize.
July.
We're going to talk about that now.
I understand people have vacation schedules.
Of course they have vacation scheduled. They've been in your courtroom.
Can we come in the
since,
week of the
May.
21st?
That's fine.
No, I'm just looking at my calendar. Could we,
Kath said she didn't do a poll. She did go to the jury room. She told the jurors she would meet with them in the jury room. And I imagine she probably asked them when she was in the jury room. I wonder if they put it on the record there, because they
Is there
need-
another day that week? Could you do the 25th or 26th?
the attorneys need to know the split, and so does the judge.
I'm supposed to be for vacation on the 25th.
Okay, the 22nd and the 24th are not great dates. So
What about, okay. What about the 19th and 9th? Is that whole week?
no, that week's not good. The teaching that I cannot get out of.
Can we do August 7th, 8th, 9th, any of those days?
No, we'll do the 22nd. We'll go back to the 22nd at 2. I can't let it go that long.
Your Honor, so the court knows, Ms. Little and I are not.
As they're deciding dates, real quick, if there are any statements by the Commonwealth or the defense, we will get to them next. So please, no spoilers. The cameras, for those of you new to this, the cameras are focusing in on the victim's mother.
22nd.
Okay,
We'd be
okay.
proposing to appear remotely anyway.
Okay.
But for a status conference, I don't want to.
We'll see.
Make this disrespectful to the court, but Ms. Little and I probably will not.
Okay.
The next trial will also
So you and your
likely
client will be
televised,
here in person, Ms. Giannetti.
and we'll cover it. So,
All right.
look, it is the lawyer's job to convince the jurors,
All right.
and the jurors' job
Thank
to
you. We'll
stick
see
to
you
their
then.
convictions.
Football rise.
That is what is important here. So everybody is exiting the courtroom. And as they are exiting the courtroom, we are going to go to any press conferences. Chat, I know some of you are ahead in time. Thank you for being respectful of the law nerds watching it together in real time, doing the best that we can while traveling. So thank you for hanging out. For those, I saw a couple questions about change of venue. I don't think change of venue is an issue here. They cast a pretty broad net for a jury. It might shift, though, for a retrial. Venue might look different for a retrial because people could have watched this case, because jurors could have watched this case. So we will see. We're going to wait and go to any press conferences that there are. So as we're covering breaking news, remember, our newsroom is me and Miguelina and the law nerds. So we're going to see. Question, will they update the public with a split? I don't know. I bet the defense will. Charmander, question, Emily, how long does the DA have to declare retrial? A while. If they don't retry, is it double jeopardy? No, it's not double jeopardy. Or can Karen Reed be retried anytime? Yes. Due to no statute of limitations? Yes. With regard to the counts that there are no statute of limitations on, yes. If they choose not to retry at this time, they can choose to retry later. There will be some tolling of the trial period. So let me zoom through this feed a little bit to get where we need to be. And let's see what this feed is doing. And then we will go to get you guys some of the other, oh, this feed ended. We will go to get you any more information that we have. I saw a couple statements on other media, but remember, as we are gathering things, we are gathering them as quickly as we can in real time, which is always dynamic. So it looks like this feed goes outside of the courthouse quickly here. So I'm going to do that in just a moment.
And investigators.
It looks like that came in.
Various charges.
It looks like that came in the middle of what Alan Jackson was saying. So I'll look for another feed to see if they have the full thing. In a
The
minute.
weight of the state, based on spurious charges, based on compromised investigation.
Oh, and it sounds like it's raining. Oh, that's delightful for everyone that it's also raining.
And investigators and compromised witnesses. This is what it looks like. And guess what? They failed. They failed miserably, and they'll continue to fail. No matter how long it takes, no matter how long they keep trying, we will not stop fighting. We have no quit.
Alan, you're going to stay on?
Go ahead. I just have two things to say, folks. Number one, I am in awe of the strength and courage of this remarkable client that I've had the privilege of representing since day one. And number two, I want to send a message to all of her supporters out there. Your support was invaluable. We are touched, and we ask for your continued support. I'm not from Texas, like my colleagues here. I'm a Boston kid, but I'll repeat what he said, which is, we ain't got no quit.
Karen, how are you feeling?
All right. And that's going to be the end of what the defense has to say. I wish we would have seen the defense argue in closing a little bit more about the standard of proof and a little less about who else might have done what.
Someone,
But we're not going to see that.
Someone dropped like a black case or something.
Oh, for a mic.
All right. And that is the scene outside the courthouse at the moment. The defense's statement is done. All of the media is going to be scrambling to try to get any other interviews. The jurors aren't going to be interviewed. That is the end of that feed. Give me one moment. For those of you asking, Karen is out on bail, has been out on bail, will continue to be out on bail. Let me see if there's any other news statements that we see. Megalina, if you've seen anything else, let me know. I think the only other statements are statements on social media. I don't think we have any other public-facing statements. So that is where we're at. Let me just check and see if there are any other public statements on social and go from there. Let's see. And then I'll answer questions. So I'm just going to take a look real quick. Much easier on my 3 monitor setup at home, a little quicker here. Ted Daniels posted just a few moments ago that the Commonwealth has announced they plan to retry Karen Read after the hung jury. There will be another trial, according to the DA spokesperson. So through their spokesperson, the DA's office has already said they plan to retry. I think that is a massive error of them to make that statement so quickly. I'm sure they've already talked about it. I think they probably should have given it a minute and decided to talk. So I think they probably should have taken the July 4th break to decide. But Ted Daniel has always had really concise information. So according to the DA spokesperson, there will be another trial. I imagine that the DA's office, and look, the DA's office has a lot of bureaucracies around what statements are allowed to be made in public. There's a lot of rules around that. So I imagine that the DA's office knew this, at least starting last week when the jury was taking so long, that the DA's office, when the jury started to indicate they were undecided, was talking about what they were going to do going forward. And they already knew that if this was mistried, that they were going to retry. Pamela E. said, will they replace Lally? No, they won't. unless he like retires or quits or like leaves the office. No, they won't. It is very difficult to bring in another prosecutor on a retrial. And I think the prosecutor's office stands behind their prosecutor in this. So let me see if there is any more from, no, this feed has the same statement from the same place. Okay. So with all of that, let's do a quick summary. Let's do Q&A. And that's where we're at. After 31 days of trial and deliberations for almost a week, the Karen Reed jury was hopelessly deadlocked and the judge declared a mistrial. That means that Karen Reed can be retried on all of the charges brought against her. A spokesperson for the district attorney's office for the Commonwealth has already indicated that they will be retrying this case. The defense spoke briefly outside of the courthouse and said that they won, essentially, that the Commonwealth is going to keep trying, that their client is standing strong, and that they are going to keep fighting, and they will continue to keep fighting. The judge indicated to the jury that she was going to speak with them privately. The judge pulled the jury in and said, "You've done your job," read out loud in open court their note. Their note said they are hopelessly at an impasse. It said that there are people that believe that the case has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and those that believe it hasn't been. We do not know at this point the split. I am not going to speculate until I see it from multiple news sources, but I am not going to speculate on any split. We don't know. But the jury said some find that this case has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt and others do not. And that is the impasse, that they have worked, that they have tried, that they have talked, and that they can't come to a decision. For the defense, this is a win. For the defense, it's a win that they did not compromise on a lesser included, which can often happen when juries just want to be done. They will compromise on a lesser included, thinking that it's not a big deal. In this case, the lesser includeds were still a big deal. So for the defense, it is absolutely a win that the jury didn't compromise, because that compromise might have gone towards a guilty on a lesser included. The lesser includeds were complicated. The instructions are complicated. None of the attorneys addressed them in closing arguments. And they talked about a chain of events. But if they weren't conflicted on the murder charges, they would have or could have gone not guilty on the murder charges and then hung on the lesser charges. That is a possibility. But that's what didn't happen here. So the Commonwealth spokesperson said that a date has been set later in July for a status conference, and that status conference will decide how this case will proceed and how it will move forward from here. Maybe at that status conference, we will see a bit more information about the verdict split. I'm sure we will see it in our in at least some of the court filings going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets dropped in there. So with all of that, you guys, we have a final decision in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. For those of you asking, yes, the judge will be the same. Yes, the lawyers seem like they will be the same. And that is where we're at. So let's get to your questions and go from there. I saw a lot of you saying you just got your notifications. I saw a lot of people got them earlier. I am sorry for all of you that just got your notifications. We are working on it. It is a point of frustration and constant conversation because of what we do being so time sensitive. So with all of that, compromise was not what these jurors were going to do. The case has been mistried. We will see how it moves forward when we are back in court at the end of July, but I will be covering this now as we move forward. I did not cover it a lot pre-trial, but now we are in Now we are in the moving forward from this, and I will be covering it. We are not popping this off the docket anytime soon. We are now going to see what happens. But the next thing we have on the docket is the Alec Baldwin trial. Cindy Y, thank you so much for the gifted memberships. Bridget, thank you for the gifted memberships. We will be doing a members only live soon to talk about VidCon. Anna said the foreman writes some very eloquent notes. I am extremely impressed. Have you ever had a note so eloquently written in your practice? We have had very clear and thoughtful notes. I don't know, honestly. It was very thoughtful. And I think the jury felt the weight of the seriousness in this case and the weight of not coming to a conclusion. I think the jury understood that very well. What happens now for Karen Reed? All of this again. All of this again. And probably the defense trying to get more information from the federal investigation. K. Marie said, nicely worded, so everyone is respected. Yes, it did. And I think that, again, if you're in a room of 12 and you think she is not guilty, how do you change your mind from there? And if you are in that room thinking she is guilty, how do you change your mind from there? Sharni, said, will the R and I looked like an M to me. I apologize. Will the new evidence go in? I don't want witnesses to have to change their stories. And don't witnesses have time to, sorry. Let me try that again. Will new evidence go in? It can. And don't witnesses have time to change their stories? They do. But what are we looking at with the witnesses? Of the first grand jury, the second grand jury, any statements to police, and the statements in this trial. So, Sharni, if a witness changes what they're saying, they potentially have at least 4 statements that they can be confronted with. And if there are at least 4 statements that they can be confronted with, then that's quite a lot. Margaret said, Emily, what do you think the chances are that she will be free next time? She still could be in jail. She's not still in jail. Karen Reed's been out on bail for the entirety of this. So no, it would take quite a lot for her status to get revoked. And I don't think that will happen in this case. Could it always happen? Yes, it could. So Milwaukee Lawnard, what's the best thing you've eaten? I have barely eaten. I had Starbucks today and I was at a concert yesterday. So I've not gotten to explore the culinary scene here in Milwaukee, unfortunately. I have been here, there, and everywhere. Does Karen go free? She's already out on bond, so she has not been in custody this whole time. So her status remains unchanged. Polling in the jury room is probably the smartest and safest option. This judge has been very, very conscientious that this case is very public. I am frustrated that it was not done publicly. I would need to look at the rules in Massachusetts before I say should. I would have hoped that it was done publicly. I think everyone has a right to know. I think the victim's family has a right to know. Karen Reed and her family have a right to know. And most importantly, the attorneys need to know. The attorneys need to know. A 6-6 split is very different than an 11-1 split. Those are just very different things. Victoria, how would they find another impartial jury as the case was so public? This will become the subject of motions down the road. This will be a huge issue. After this trial, they can't keep the FBI investigation a secret either. This becomes an issue. And I imagine, depending on what happens, we will see change of venue motions. But there's a lot of things that can happen from here. But it depends how dug in the prosecution is. It also depends on if Karen Reed would plead anything. So could they resolve this case without going to trial again? They could. But if you're Karen Reed, would you accept anything from this prosecution team? Would you accept anything? If they came to you and are like, plead for DUI, wouldn't you be like, no, fuck yourself. Try it again. Do you? Like, would you accept anything? So, right. And if you're the prosecution and you feel like, no, we're doing this, would you back down? Now, it's the prosecution's job. It's the prosecution's job to evaluate the case and choose if going to trial is what's best for the people of the state of Massachusetts. This system of prosecutors, the prosecutors don't represent the victim. They don't represent the victim's family. They represent the people of the state or the people of the Commonwealth. Is this needed for the people of the Commonwealth? Is another prosecution what's good for this community and for the people? Prosecutors are for the people. I don't know if this is what's best for the people, and that's part of why I'm so frustrated. And I remain frustrated because I don't know if this is what's best for the people. Do I think this prosecution's office might hear from the people? Yes. These are elected officials. Do I think they will hear from the citizens of their district? Probably. Because if you watch Proctor's testimony, do you send a letter? Do you send an email? And look, the emails that are thoughtful, that are restrained, that are kind, are going to get listened to. Hey, I watched this trial. Why is this how you're using my tax money? Is very different. Sending threats, again, I feel like I shouldn't ever have to say this when it's related to a trial, but sending threats and vitriol is never okay. And it doesn't help. Thoughtfulness helps. Hey, I live here. Hey, this is my tax dollars. Your office represents the people. What are you doing? That's fair. If you do not live in this elected jurisdiction, your email will go immediately in the trash. If you do live in this jurisdiction, there is room for conscientious statements. But vitriol just makes them dig in, all right? Like with all things, vitriol tends to make people on one side or the other side of an issue dig in. Open conversation opens conversation, right? Victoria, how would they find another impartial jury? And that is the question. Will the defense bring change of venue motions? Probably. There will be lots of litigation before this ever goes to trial again. And I'll be covering it. I didn't cover the pretrial litigation in this case, but now that the case is done, I will go back and look. Sussex, Sandra, always good to see you. But at the same time, I'm sad that there's no justice for the O'Keefe family. I think no matter what happens in trial, Sandra, it makes me very sad that that ship has sailed. Should have been a proper investigation to find the cause of John's death. Agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree. And they're not. This trial didn't bring me answers. I was hoping it would, but this trial didn't bring me answers at all. Peony Rain said, would Karen Reed and counsel be in the judge's room as she pulled the jury? No. I hope, and again, that is, let me be clear. The judge said, I will be back to talk to you shortly, but did not say what she would be doing. I said, I hope that this is what is done. Do not take that as that is what is done. That was what is done. I hope that someone got a poll of the jury. It doesn't mean that they did. So, Jenny, I'm incredibly proud of this jury, no matter my personal beliefs. They've been there so long, and I'm so proud they've stood firm in their beliefs. I feel for them, John's family and Carrie Reed. Jenny, very well said. I feel for them too. Because again, standing your ground when others disagree can be very, very difficult. But if you remember, they kept saying moral conviction because that echoes the language of the jury instructions. So if those of you are newer to this case and you hear that language and you're like, this is inappropriate, it's not. The language that they were using very much mirrors the instructions that they were given. So I think that that is appropriate. John in the chat asked, or Jill York. I had a swim coach named John York, Jill, and that in my brain just absolutely went, yes. Dave Matthews played Halloween last night, and my brain is still a little bit scrambled. Also, like, Tim Reynolds is totally copying Rashawn's shoe game, and that was amazing. My brain is still, I'm not recovered. Like, JTR and Fool in the Rain, like, I'm still not okay. I can still feel Carter's drums in my soul. There was an Ants fake into how, like, there was a third verse Gray Street, and some of the people at the venue, Alpine people, How do you not know he's playing third verse Gray Street again? They started singing back into the chorus without the third verse, and I was ready to murder. I was so angry. I'm like, how do you not know we're getting a third verse Gray Street? Like, shush. We'll talk about this on Members Only Live. Jill York, can they change the charges? They can't. It's not easy for them to add new charges unless they are lesser than the charges they have now, but they can dismiss charges and narrow down the indictment to just try her on the hit and run or the alcohol related. They can dismiss some charges so they can narrow it down. Laura said, can we get a food court before Baldwin as a palate cleanser? I don't know if we will have time. The Dark Angel said, oh no, did I miss it? You can go back and rewatch, but the jury is hung. A mistrial has been declared. Megalina, can we just pin a comment that the Karen retrial ended in a mistrial? It might already be there. Yeah, thank you. It is already there. I just can't see it from here. Lawnard Junkie, shout out to Gina and our new Lawnard. Hannah, welcome. Angie said, I'm still in shock that someone or multiple people on the jury didn't believe the science from actual experts, shade at Trooper Paul, that the injuries on John could be from being hit with a car. There were also the possibilities that it was a side swipe. And that is part of what the experts said as well. So to devil's advocate this, I think that points it out. For me personally, hey, could have been a side swipe, could have fallen, could have been hit, could have been this, could have been that. That for me points to doubt. If some of those jurors were like, no, that's the lesser included crime, you can end up with that sticking point. And the attorneys, and I am critical of the attorneys on both sides in this, the attorneys did not explain those jury instructions well. And I think that's where some of the confusion is. Hermanas Chris said, is the Baldwin trial going to be televised? Oh yeah, I'll be streaming it. My criticism for the lawyers on both sides is that they did not explain those jury instructions to tell the jury why they could or could not come to a verdict. And they needed to explain them. Some of you are saying the judge only gave 1 hour for closing. Yeah, and they could have explained the jury instructions better instead of, there was a lot of room. I think the defense had room. Jackson gave a great closing, but did not explain this is why there's doubt in these instructions. Lally's closing got really in the weeds and didn't say this is what's in these instructions. So it's needed. Lyndon, good to see you in the chat, said it's a valid criticism. Jury instructions are complex. Yeah, they are. And those jury instructions on those lesser included were incredibly complex. So I will find the jury instructions and share them in our app later and talk about where I see the complexities. But some of those jury instructions on chain of events and what cause means in those chains of events is difficult. So, Dominique, is this a new press conference? Because we covered the defense being outside the courtroom, and we covered the Commonwealth's statement, or the Commonwealth's spokesperson's statement, that they're retrying the case. I think it was an error to make that statement today. I think they should have given it a week and had a conversation. What did Paul say to Karen on the way out? I have no idea. I'm sure we'll hear someone's perspective of that at some point. I don't know if anyone else in the courtroom heard it or saw it. I don't know. I don't know if Karen heard it. Will Karen have to pay for a second defense? That's between her and her lawyers. So, his poor brother and mother, yes, they deserve answers. The answer might not be Karen Reed, and that's hard too. They deserve answers. Miss Mandy reacts, says, I'm sad, but it's better than a guilty, I guess. Can you imagine if you felt, if you feel the Commonwealth hasn't proved their case? I'm in that boat with you. I feel that the Commonwealth didn't prove their case. I think there was room to argue on some of those lesser included instructions, but I don't think they proved it for me beyond a reasonable doubt. But can you imagine the frustration if they compromised on like an involuntary manslaughter that carries 20 years in prison? Can you imagine? So I'm sure the jury's exhausted and kind of overwrought. Follow says, if the Commonwealth says they are not recharging, can they change their mind later? I would have to actually look at the case law on that. I think it would be really difficult for them to say we're not pursuing it, because the judge at that point, if they were not pursuing a retrial, the judge would dismiss it with prejudice. So they would have to bring different charges. So it wouldn't be double jeopardy. But I would actually have to look at the case law and the jurisdiction, but generally no. But shit's out of the horse on that one, with the Commonwealth's press statement immediately being, we intend to retry her. How do they keep juror members so anonymous? Well, all the media's in the courtroom, and that goes to ethics. Surprised there are no pictures of them on Reddit. I would be appalled if there were. The level of pissed I would be. Our system really relies on people adhering to some boundaries, and harassing jurors goes well outside all ethical boundaries. And that includes fucking Courthouse Becky, which is why I have so much fucking smoke for her, because you're the clerk of court. You don't get to try to curry favor with the fucking jury. Jurors are a sacred thing. All right, y'all. I am back. The internet, like all of the internet just went down. My cell phone went down. The hotspot went down. The hotspot and my cell phone are the same. And that was part of it. So let's swoop and get back into it. Apologies. We're gonna edit the dead zones out of this after the stream. So if the live chat disappears, I apologize. But for the rewatchability, we're gonna do that. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. It's just wild. I'm gonna answer a few more questions. I don't know if we had music on because I can't hear it. So Miguelina, if we do, if you'll just turn that off. Honey said EDB's internet. Wait, I have to deal with Lally again. Look, this has been just, I don't know what y'all use in Wisconsin for cell service, but Verizon has not been doing it. But Chris and I were traveling together. She has a different provider. Her cell service was great. Mine, not so much, but my phone and my hotspot are the same provider. So when the cell service isn't great, the cell service isn't great. And that's what I've had to worry about today. So if I get cut again, I'm going to swoop and I will do a quick bit on this. But it's been difficult. Can we meet Chris? Chris is already at the airport. So Chris is already at the airport. NBC 10 had the full defense statement outside the courtroom. We didn't miss much. Perfect. So Verizon is terrible in Wisconsin. I didn't know. Look, the cheese looks amazing. I didn't know. And next time I am going to have to have a hotspot. I think when we travel for trials, I'm going to need one with a SIM card for 2 different carriers or something. Look, we learn every time we do it. I don't know how to be a streamer. I just figure it out as I go. I don't know if there's any other way to do that. Right? We just figure it out as we go. So will we be getting another SIM card? Yes. Don't they all use the same towers? Yes, but who knows? So it is what it is. Let's get to a couple questions. Amy's positive pathways. Hey, Amy said, if they do in fact retry, it needs to be same charges, right? They can change the charges, in that they could drop one of the charges and not retry on all of the charges. They can't now say she beat him with a bat or something. Oh no, changing a theory of the case would be incredibly difficult. And all the witnesses went to their theory of the case. Could they argue their theory of the case or articulate it better? Yeah, they totally could. So it's absolutely raining. We saw all that outside the court. Thank you for your work on the case. I do hope one day there is justice for the victim. I hope we get answers for the victim's family. The answers aren't going to feel like justice to them, but I hope that there are answers for them. It is what everyone deserves in their circumstance. I'm live 2 years. Oh, member for 24 months. Congratulations. I love those member chats. Can we do a poll on the mistrial results, please? I don't know what to poll on that other than, are you frustrated? And I think the answer is yes across the board. Who decides if it gets dismissed? The DA's office. FBI investigation, though. Kat in Virginia. This is why I don't think I would have announced or wanted to announce if they're retrying or not. I think they would have wanted to evaluate that more. It's an odd thing. J. Michael, good to see you. If they push for a fast retrial, could that be reversible after they both asked to continue? No, they asked for a continuance late. And there's a lot that goes into before we even get there. We're just going to have to watch it play out. There are going to be time limits in the law for these things. Wisco will welcome you back with open arms anytime. It's great here. I will definitely be back. Chris and I were talking about it today. We're like the little sailing area that we were near, the art museum, like downtown Milwaukee's cool. I just haven't had a lot of time. Summerfest looks really, really cool. Just haven't had time to explore that because travel has been so busy because of the timing of VidCon, and VidCon was needed and important. So it just, for as far as work things go, VidCon is one of those work things that is a do not miss. It's also really fun. Kimchi said, I think it answered why we won't have an answer. I think, yes. I think the jury did that for everybody. Yellow Pill, I'm sorry about that. Trust me, the way we are working on it. Pam said, very disappointed with this outcome. It doesn't feel resolved. There's just still an open loop. Too many Alec, and Reed. Yep. All. There appears to be a 1-year limit on starting a new trial in Massachusetts. There we go. So I need to look at the law there. Haven't well been able to do that given all the travel and internet issues. But if there is a limit on when the retrial needs to start, then that's it. What if there's a second mistrial? This just goes on and on forever. Becca, it really depends on jurisdictional rules. And sometimes that just depends on the splits. But yeah, you can do a third retrial. Yeah, you can do a fourth retrial, but some jurisdictions limit it. At some point, the judge can say, no, we're not retrying it. At what point would they do that? That's going to really depend on jurisdiction. Michelle O'Hare said, in my opinion, they do not want to convict her, but also they were afraid to acquit her due to small community. I don't know the makeup of the jury. I don't know where they're from. They're not going to be from Canton. We know that jurors weren't selected from Canton. If it's not proved, it's not proved. Sometimes that's unpopular, but if jurors have come to unpopular decisions before. Victoria, will you cover the retrial? Yes. And hearings? Yes. Can the judge direct a verdict after she pulls a jury? No. There would have to be motions and stuff. The judge can't just do it sua sponte. EDB, does it concern you that some jurors truly believed it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt? Scary to me. No, it doesn't concern me, but because I don't know which they are talking about. So I don't know. I don't know if they're talking about all the charges. I don't know if they're talking about the lesser included charges. I don't know what they are talking about. So Francis said case dismissed. It's not dismissed yet. This case is mistried and it is going back to court July to start the process for a retrial. It is not dismissed. Lally made a case super complicated. He did. And the jury instructions weren't clear. Heather said, I commend this jury. I do too. They, look, all you can ask is that people honestly stand by their principles. Kevin said, while a flat out not guilty would have been the best outcome, I feel this is better than a flat out guilty when the Commonwealth did not prove that Karen hit John. And those chain of events instructions on the lesser includeds are confusing. Do you think they will drop their murder case? I don't see that happening with this Commonwealth or with this prosecutor's office based on what we've seen. What's Karen's next move here? Try to take a breath and get ready for all the motions that are going to come. Like the lawyers are going to take a deep breath and try to get ready for all the motions that are going to come, start going over transcripts and start going over the rest of it. The Commonwealth spent so much time pouring useless information with a fire hose for weeks. I'm not surprised. None of it is clear for them. And that's true. They couldn't sit down and rewatch portions of it. They couldn't parse it. For those of you that have been watching this case really closely, did you watch just the trial streams? Did you watch the trial streams and the breakdown streams? Did you go back and watch stuff yourself? Because it was confusing. There are times I went through and rewatch stuff because I caught stuff on the replays that I hadn't caught. So it's just, did you need to hear it more than once? And the jury didn't get to hear it more than once. And they're going from their notes. So it really just depends on how they remember it. And even with me streaming it, I would pause and back up to be like, wait, what now? I needed to hear some of this more than once. Imagine in real time, no pause, no break. It's hard. It's really, really, really hard. And it is the attorney's job to make it not so hard. Shazam gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you to all the members who member chatted. I'm not going to read them all out loud just for, honestly, for voice. But I am going to pull them up because A, thank you, and B, thank you, and C, thank you for being honored. Can't wait for the next trial. Baldwin is the next one. So this, once we got past a couple of days, I'm not surprised that this hung. I actually thought, if you go back and watch my coverage of the Murdaugh case, I thought the Murdaugh case was fairly confusing as well. I was surprised they came back as fast as they did. I'm like, this is ripe for a hung jury. And sometimes when there's a lot of discourse and the evidence is not clear, it's kind of ripe for a hung jury. So, Jay Fernandez, I understand. I have questions too. Will we ever know the split? I don't know. But when we do, I'll talk about it. Are they able to reuse evidence? Yep, they will. Will you be at Dave Matthews Bands in Massachusetts this month? I can't, unfortunately, but I've been wanting to. I've been wanting to go to Virginia Beach. I have a list of venues I want to go to. I feel like maybe we just plan a Law Nerd summer tour and I just go to Dave shows and then we just do meetups in every jurisdiction. So I think we just do all of that, right? Nana Banana, is Baldwin's TV interview going to be played in his trial? Probably part of it. I think they're going to fight with it or fight for it. So is Karen able to give interviews or would that hurt her case? It would absolutely hurt her case. Absolutely hurt her case. She's not done. That doesn't mean she won't give interviews that are held. I think that they're filming. She might make statements. I don't know if the Commonwealth would try to get those. They probably would if she says anything that's not just to her lawyers. So it'll be tough. Would you as a lawyer go and rewatch the trial? I always went through transcripts. I never had the ability to go rewatch it. I think I would do both. I think I would listen to and go through the transcripts, but you have to go through the transcripts. Would you cover the retrial? Yes. We're invested now. Like we're in. Like we're just in. Did his brother just speak with Karen Reed on the way out? I don't know. It looked like there was, all right. My internet is getting very spicy with me. And instead of the consistent interruptions, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to let myself go. We're going to all see ourselves out, go to the airport, take a breath. I will do a follow-up stream just for like a Q&A stream, as I was saying. I will do a follow-up stream, like a Q&A stream, because I think we'll all need a moment to chat. I'm not sure when I will do that. It is 4th of July week coming up. So I and my kids have not seen me for a minute because I have been traveling. I owe you a members only stream that we are going to talk about VidCon, the creators I met at VidCon, conversations that were had, fun that was had, all the behind the scenes, all the tea. We're going to do that on a members only. I owe you guys like a chill catch up stream, just like an open Q&A, what's coming up for Baldwin stream. I just don't know when that will be, given that we're coming right up to 4th of July. We are working with the app to make sure that we have a smoother experience for Baldwin. This is the first trial I've covered where the judge does not give a lead time for people coming in. So I will reassess how we do that when we get into the Baldwin case. I felt that was a little easier. So final words. Having a little heads up is a little easier. We are working on that on our end. We will be back streaming soon. I don't know exact dates. I will let you know in the app. I will let you know here in the channel. And we will do everything we can to make sure you are in the loop. So with the internet saying, girl, we're done, I am going to go to the airport. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a law nerd. And that is it. Mistrial in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. The Commonwealth is already saying this case will be retried. I'll see you guys in the next one. You can stay up to date with everything I'm covering and fast notifications on our free iOS and Android app at lawnerdapp.com or search the App Store for Law Nerd. You can also follow me around social media, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Emily Show, with quick bits dropping every Monday, summarizing everything I do here on the live streams on Tuesday and Thursday for when you just have time for the quick bits. Thanks for being a law nerd.